नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, वणक्कम। आप सभी को ऑल्टरनेट मीडिया में फिर से स्वागत है। मैं आपकी होस्ट गायत्री देवी। हमारे साथ हैं पथिकृत पैन, अ जियोपॉलिटिकल एक्सपर्ट एंड करंटली वर्किंग ऑन G20 प्रोजेक्ट। जी, सो आज का बहुत स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन के साथ स्टार्ट करूंगी कि इंडियाज G20 प्रेसिडेंसी इज मेकिंग द ग्लोबल पावर ब्लॉक्स वेरी वेरी अनकंफर्टेबल। जी पथिकृत।
नमस्ते गायत्री जी। सो frankly, one of the thing is this, ये जो G20 होता है या शंघाई कोऑपरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, दोनों की प्रेसिडेंसी इन 2023 इज विद इंडिया। सो एनीवन कैन से ये तो प्रेसिडेंसी रोटेशनल बेसिस में हर साल किसी ना किसी देश के पास जाता है जो मेंबर्स है, उसमें खास क्या है? The important thing about G20 in 2023 is that it will not be like any other G20 event. It will be something else. It will be different. और ये धीरे धीरे पता चल जाएगा. Secondly, it is important to understand one thing. ये जितने सारे groupings है, चाहे वो G20 हो, चाहे वो शंघाई कोऑपरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो, especially G20, organizations like this have become very very important nowadays. उसका कारण ये है that जो मल्टीलैटरल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस है जिनको तैयार किया गया था आफ्टर 1945. Firstly, let me tell you, I am not speaking on behalf of G20 here. I am giving my personal opinion. So I will keep G20 and my engagement with some of the aspects of G20 separate from this. I'm giving my personal opinion. So जितने मल्टीलैटरल फोरम्स तैयार किया गया था आफ्टर द एंड ऑफ सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर, चाहे वो यूनाइटेड नेशन हो, चाहे वो वर्ल्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो, या काफी सारे और, क्वेश्चन इज हाउ सक्सेसफुल आर दीज ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस टुडे? आप देखेंगे लॉट ऑफ countries are taking interest in G20 for 2023 because there is an increasing realization कि जितने multilateral organizations को तैयार किया गया था, question is have they fulfilled their purpose? If some organizations were created to prevent wars after Second World War, have they been able to prevent wars? I think one of the purpose of United Nations was to prevent conflicts after 1945 when Second World War ended. Has United Nations been able to prevent wars? यहाँ जहाँ पे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता है, how much effort multilateral organizations like United Nations take to prevent those wars, या फिर conflict resolution का जो mechanism है आज वो कौन कंट्रोल करता है? जब कोई कहीं पे कोई बहुत बड़ा क्राइसिस होता है, जब सिविलियंस को इवैक्यूएट करना होता है, countries like India take the initiative. How much effort is made by global multilateral organizations? जब suddenly countries like Sri Lanka are in crisis, India did quite a bit. याद रखिए उस टाइम, a lot of other countries were in problem. So we were also in trouble. We had just barely recovered from COVID. Not many countries came ahead to help Sri Lanka. So if you look at what is the theme of G20 for 2023, that reveals a lot. The theme for 2023, as coined by our Honorable Prime Minister, is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And I think we all know what Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is. The whole world is my family. So why is it important to coin this, and why G20 for G20 के साथ इसको जोड़ना बहुत important था? So when we say the whole world is one family, it challenges the existing notions of us versus them. Today, the whole world is, the prime problem is us versus them in everything. Some nations will impose sanctions and the rest will have to follow it. Some nations will decide who is bad. कुछ देश डिसाइड करेंगे कौन सा देश खराब है और सबको मानना पड़ेगा. अगर रशिया किसी के ऊपर बॉम्बिंग करता है तो गलत है, लेकिन अगर कोई पश्चिमी देश करता है तो वो सही था. दैट वाज फॉर डेमोक्रेसी, दैट वाज फॉर प्रोटेक्टिंग डेमोक्रेसी. ये हर चीज में जो अस वर्सेस देम होता है. हमने सैंक्शन लगाया, आपको मानना पड़ेगा. वी द डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज इम्पोज सैंक्शंस. यू द डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज हैव टू अबाइड बाय योर सैंक्शंस. नहीं तो यू विल बी इन बैड बुक. ये this has to go, right? Secondly, every life is important, every nation is important. So what is happening in G20 for 2023? And remember, aap jab G20 for 2023 dekhoge, you have to look at it in conjunction with something called the global south, the rise of global south. What is global south? Jitne developing countries hai. So basically the world is divided into global south and global north. Global north means developed countries, और global south में developing countries है. of Africa, Europe, Africa, Asia दोनों मिला के, या फिर South America. Global south has no voice. India is saying we will become the voice of the voiceless. We will speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. That is a problem. अब तक तो जो वेस्ट दिखाता है ये अच्छा है तो सबको मानना पड़ेगा भाई अच्छा है, क्योंकि बीबीसी दिखा रहा है ना. भले ही दे हैव डिस्ट्रॉयड द होल वर्ल्ड, बट बीबीसी दिखा रहा है, गोरे चमड़े है, इट मस्ट बी ट्रू. भले ही दे हैव डिस्ट्रॉयड इराक, बट बीबीसी दिखा रहा है, दे कैन नेवर बी रॉन्ग. भले ही दे हैव एन एजेंडा, पर बीबीसी दिखा रहा है, यूरोप का है, यूरोप मतलब हम लोग वी हैव टू प्रोस्ट्रेट. So India is not against anybody, but India is talking about an equal world, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, where recently a global south का meeting था, 120 countries were जुड़े थे उस meeting में, virtual meeting था, and the Prime Minister of India addressed that meeting, and he talked about 4R, 4R: respond, recognize, respect, reform. Respond मतलब, so this is my understanding of what he said. Respond मतलब respond to any crisis of the world, किसी भी देश में हो. If that country is not a problem for the whole world, you must secure and rescue that country. इतने सारे ग्लोबल एनजीओ है, कौन आया था श्रीलंका को मतलब who responded to the crisis of Sri Lanka? Nobody except India. Because for them, अरे यार बिग डील यार, लग्जमबर्ग में होता तो सोचते, लग्जमबर्ग में होता तो इट वुड हैव बीन इम्पोर्टेंट. श्रीलंका कौन है, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? सम पीपल डाइड, सम पीपल आर इन chaos. अच्छा गुड प्राइम टाइम टीआरपी बढ़ाने वाला इशू है, 2 मिनट का, अच्छा खबर बनेगा. अफ्रीका में व्हेन पीपल डाई ऑफ स्टारवेशन, तो हॉलीवुड सेलिब्रिटीज गो एंड बिकम गुडविल एम्बेसडर. एक थोड़ा सा कुछ दे देता है हाथ में एंड दे बिकम, वो एक बहुत बड़ा, देयर होल एंडोर्समेंट वैल्यू गोज अप. कोई नहीं देखता कि वहां पे क्राइसिस है क्यों. कोई नहीं देखता कि व्हाट हैज बीन द रोल ऑफ मेजर डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज बिकॉज ऑफ विच मेनी ऑफ द अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज आर एट वॉर. बट वो पीआर का बहुत बड़ा एक कारण बन जाता है. So this thing has to stop. This is what India is saying. Respond to every crisis. Recognize. Recognize क्या करना है? Recognize that all countries are important. People of all countries are important. यूरोप में टेरर अटैक होता है तो वो बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, लेकिन इंडिया में होता है तो चलो वो ठीक है, वो डेवलपिंग देश है ना, लड़ाई झगड़ा होता है. Then we will talk about human rights, freedom of speech. बट यूरोप में होता है तो वो टेररिज्म है. खालिस्तानी जाके ऑस्ट्रेलिया में, यूके में बवाल मचाएगा तो बोला जाएगा नो, वी हैव टू गिव देम द स्पेस इन द नेम ऑफ लिबर्टी. तो हम करें स्कॉटलैंड के सेसेशनिस्ट मूवमेंट को हम प्रमोट करें फिर? तब तो आप नहीं एक्सेप्ट करोगे. So respond, recognize all countries are important and all countries, their sovereignty is important. Respond, recognize, respect people. When the COVID, crisis was at its peak, और हिंदुस्तान में दुख की बात है, ये कितने कुछ लोग हैं इस देश में, घिन आती है मुझे इनके बारे में बात करने में. When the Western media had written India off, ये तो गया, और इंडिया में कुछ लोग नाच रहे थे. So for India, patiently, with lot of effort, government of India worked hard with the private sector to develop and manufacture the vaccine at an industrial scale. Vaccinated its entire eligible population, almost free of cost. And then इन्होंने सप्लाई किया to 71 other countries. जब ये कहा जा रहा था कि डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज जिनके पास बहुत पैसा है, बहुत रिसोर्सेस है, दे वर होर्डिंग द वैक्सीन. वो अपना वैक्सीन अपने गोडाउन में रख रहे थे, किसी को दे नहीं रहा था. And that is the time when Prime Minister of India took the initiative of giving vaccines to everybody. Because what kind of world would it have been if 71 countries had seen devastation while only Europe had survived or India had survived? It would not have helped the world. And ultimately, the fourth R of 4R is reform. Reform means please give voice to those who deserve it. It is time for United Nations Security Council to reform, that India get its legitimate space and place. It is time for accountability. Where did the COVID virus originate? आज तक कोई बता क्यों नहीं पाया? Multilateral institutions. So this is what India is saying. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is important. Please, till the time आप you accept till the time you accept कि चाहे वो रशियन लाइफ हो और यूक्रेनियन लाइफ हो, if a life is lost, a life is lost. Till the time you accept that, you will not put in effort to end the war. Are countries of the West trying to prevent the war or end the war? No. औजार दे रहा है, लड़ो. यूरोप से दूर है, एक डिस्टेंट जगह है, लड़ते जाओ.
नहीं, बट आई एक्चुअली डिसएग्री. वो तो वॉर उन्होंने करवाया है. वो वॉर एंड करने की बात
करवाया है.
वॉर
करवाया है, एब्सोल्युटली. तो करवाया है, अब तो फिर और भी पुश कर रहा है. So the question is, जब वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की बात आप करोगे, when you accept the whole world as one family, तो आप किसी के साथ लड़ाई नहीं चाहोगे. आज तो it seems जो मेजर मिलिट्री इंडस्ट्रियल कॉम्प्लेक्सेस है, मिलिट्री कंपनीज है, वो जियोपॉलिटिकल इश्यूज को मैनिपुलेट करते हैं ताकि हर 5 साल में एक बड़ा लड़ाई हो. 5 साल पहले जब कोल्ड वॉर खत्म हो गया था, ये सोचा गया था कि देयर विल बी नो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इन द वर्ल्ड. आज क्या हो रहा है? Every 5 years there has been a war. Because some people benefit out of wars. Some countries benefit out of terrorism. Some organizations benefit out of conflicts. That is the problem. Because you don't accept every life as important. Because you do not accept the whole world as one family. So fundamental change to दुनिया में तभी आएगा ना जब आप कहोगे कि the whole world is my family. आज तो आप वो you don't accept. So this is why a lot of countries are uncomfortable, क्योंकि ये जो ग्लोबल साउथ का मीटिंग हुआ था, 120 countries listened and cheered for Prime Minister Modi because the Prime Minister of India is saying, I will be the voice of the voiceless. And that's a big thing. वो तो धंधा बंद हो जाएगा, दुकान बंद हो जाएगा बहुत लोगों का.
जी.
That is a fundamental.
ये बैकग्राउंड है. हम साउथ ब्लॉक की आपने बात की, 120 कंट्रीज की बात की. सो अगर हम बात करें कि ग्लोबल साउथ की बात करें, अगर हम बात करें कि मेजर पावर ब्लॉक्स, नाउ हियर कम्स द मोस्ट इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट ऑफ द एंटायर टॉक. कौन से पावर ब्लॉक्स हैं जिनको थ्रेट फील हो रहा है हमारे G20 से? आई मीन हर साल तो रोटेट होती रहती है. व्हाट इज द बिग डील? भाई इट इज एवरी
नहीं,
कंट्री
सबसे बड़ा
गेट्स।
बिग डील, एक तो सबसे बड़ा इशू ये है, देखिए, क्योंकि आज हम लोग ये प्रोग्राम कर रहे हैं, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मैं कोई कंट्री का स्पेसिफिक नाम नहीं लूंगा, बट आई विल इंडिकेट। एक तो सबसे बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज ये है कि आफ्टर दिस प्रोग्राम सम पीपल विल डेफिनेटली राइट, अरे क्या इंडिया में प्रॉब्लम नहीं है? इंडिया में प्रॉब्लम है, हर देश में प्रॉब्लम होता है, बिकॉज वी आर a developing country, rapidly developing country, because we have problems, so we know solutions better than developed countries. ठीक है? So what has happened in the last 2 years? क्या हुआ है? If you look at from a larger perspective, what has happened in the last 2 years? In last 2 years, India has, please understand this. In the last 2 years, India has emerged as a solution provider for many challenges of the world. एक नोशन था विच हैज बीन क्रिएटेड सिंस द टाइम ऑफ 1945 की जो सोल्यूशन है ना वो गोरे चमड़े वाले वो वेस्ट देंगे। हम डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज, ब्राउन स्किन वाले, काले स्किन वाले, हमारे पास सोल्यूशन थोड़ी होता है। वो बोलेंगे कब कोल अच्छा है तो हमको कोल यूज करना पड़ेगा। वो बोलेंगे अब कोल बंद कर दो, यू हैव टू स्टॉप इट। वो बोलेंगे ये देश अच्छा है, वो बोलेंगे ये बेहतर है, ये खराब है, हमको एक्सेप्ट करना पड़ेगा। And they will tell you what to do on industry, they will tell you what to do on climate, they will tell you everything. Today India is saying, look, I am equally concerned about the environment as you are, lekin I also have to take care of aspirations of 140 crore people, और ये प्रॉब्लम बहुत सारे देशों की है। तो वी नो एज अ डेवलपिंग कंट्री, एक देश जो 30 साल में बहुत कुछ झेल के आगे आया है और अभी भी बहुत कुछ झेलना है, क्योंकि ये जो स्टेटस को चेंज हो रहा है, ऐसा नहीं कि सारे देश चुपचाप इसको एक्सेप्ट कर लेंगे, ऊपर ऊपर हंसेंगे, दोस्ती बनाए रखेंगे, और लेकिन बीच बीच में दे विल डू अ लॉट ऑफ हिट जॉब्स। द इशू इज इंडिया जो जो चीज अभी कर रहा है ना, वी विल एक्सप्लेन इन डिटेल्स, दैट इज बिकमिंग ग्रेजुअली अ टेम्पलेट फॉर मेनी ऑफ द डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज। वो बोले अरे यार, वी फेस द सेम प्रॉब्लम्स, डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज विल नॉट नो व्हाट वी आर फेसिंग, सो वी विल एम्ब्रेस द इंडियन सोल्यूशन। एंड सेकेंडली, इंडिया ये नहीं बोल रहा है कि भाई मेरा सोल्यूशन लो, पेटेंट है, मुझे पैसा दो, ऐसा नहीं बोल रहा है। लिसन, दिस इज द वे आई एम ट्राइंग माई ओन वे टू सॉल्व माई प्रॉब्लम्स। वी हैव लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स, आई एम ट्राइंग माई वे, दिस इज द टेम्पलेट जो हम यूज कर रहे हैं। आपको अगर इफ इट सूट यू, प्लीज यूज इट। अगर आपको लगे देयर आर बेटर सोल्यूशंस, गो इट, क्योंकि वी डोंट इम्पोज एनीथिंग ऑन द वर्ल्ड। हम किसी को नहीं बोल रहे कि अगर तुम मेरा वाला नहीं मान रहे हो तो तुम्हारा दुश्मन हो। वी आर नॉट सेइंग दैट, वी आर नॉट सेइंग either you are with us or against us, or we have shown that a country can use its industrial proficiency to manufacture 250 crore vaccines at the highest level of quality. We have administered it and we are still doing it for our own people. We have given it to 71 other countries. We have made vaccines free. क्यों? Because human beings are the best resources of the country. हाँ? अगर लोग नहीं रहेंगे तो देश नहीं रहता है। And then उस time we use our information technology capability to create an app called CoWIN, जिसमें you get digital certificates जो अमेरिका में भी available नहीं है। And we are showing you embed modern capitalism with your national responsibility of giving it free of cost. You take care of your people by giving additional free ration to 80 crore people, so that कोविड को कंटेन करने के लिए जब लॉकडाउन लगा तो कोई nobody dies of starvation. And then उस टाइम पे you use your ability to implement very very strict reforms. आप तभी सोशल वर्क कर पाओगे जब आपके पास पैसा होगा। पैसा तभी होगा when the market economy works. And that is how India is doing. India has shown industrial scale proficiency, national responsibility, social welfare schemes, and developing resilient supply chain. Time लगेगा, but we have started the process. What is the resilient supply chain? एक ऐसा supply chain जो global disruption के वजह से वो disrupt नहीं होगा. You create a supply chain which is independent of global disruption. How do you do that? Is something is very important. And that is why a lot of countries are taking interest. We have saying that, look, we are not in favor of any war. लेकिन conflict जब होगा, जब the moment you say ये सही है ये बुरा है, तब conflict कभी खत्म नहीं होता. Let those countries sit together and sort it out. ये हुआ नहीं between Russia and Ukraine. लड़ाई वहां हो रहा है, तेल का कीमत बढ़ा दिया, सैंक्शन लगा के भुगतेंगे हमारे लोग. हमने बोला क्यों करेंगे भाई? I have to take care of my people. I don't want war, but because war is happening, why should my people suffer? So we became a voice which is independent, and many countries found logic in it. They are saying, you become our voice. So many countries, those countries which are not giving a permanent seat to India in the United Nations Security Council, are suddenly seeing, अचानक देख रहा है 100 195 या 200 जो देश है उसमें से 120 देश बोल रहा है we actually want India to become our voice. Can you imagine what would happen? You don't need a United Nations Security Council. I mean, we don't need a seat. We are altering the status quo. We are altering. We are not saying we have the best solution, but we have worked on a 5G and telling to the world, you can take our 5G and we will not spy on you. हमने भी 200 करोड़ से ज्यादा वैक्सीन एडमिनिस्टर किया, हमारे बगल वाले देश ने भी किया. उसका हालत क्या है, हमारा हालत क्या है, ये बताइए. We don't do fraud on people, isn't it? We are talking about renewable energy, लेकिन एक calibrated way से कर रहे हैं. We are talking about जनधन आधार, वो बहुत सारे schemes हैं, gradually we'll come to that. But fundamentally what are we doing? ये जो notion है that all solutions must come from West, ये तोड़ा जा रहा है. People are seeing across. Now people have started asking questions कि इराक में क्या हुआ था, अफगानिस्तान में हुआ क्या था, 10 साल ईरान इराक का लड़ाई किसने किया था? Why do you think suddenly the president of Egypt comes? It is a big thing. Egypt is the connection between, Egypt is the bridge between Asia and Africa. Egypt is both almost de facto African and de facto Asia. And Egypt, which is a civilizational nation, it's a nation with a civilization. When it comes together with India, it's a big thing, right? And Egypt is a country which has taken a strong stand on Islamic radicalism. They have taken extremely strong steps against Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt is a Muslim country, but they have taken a strong step against Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood का हिंदी क्या है?
Something Ummah. I mean, Ummah or
जमात इस्लाम.
something.
जमात
अच्छा,
इस्लाम.
okay, I don't know that, but मुझे Muslim Brotherhood ही पता है. But when I asked for the Hindi translation, so they said it's something called Ummah. I think my viewers somebody must be updated with that.
So no, so the Jamaat groups actually are inspired by Muslim Brotherhood. I'm not getting into good or bad. वो अलग चीज़ है. चलो.
Wahhabi and yeah, that line. जी.
So anyways, so the coming of the Egyptian thing, the way, in fact, global south का जब meeting हो रहा था, by no standard China is a global south country. It's a developed country. अब वो घुस गया, जबरदस्ती घुस गया, because they want to be, because they know that this is the country which speaks without any bad intention in mind. They wanted to be part of global south. China, imagine, the second largest economy, wants us to speak for them. So this is the issue. We'll come in details, a lot of things. So another thing, I'm just giving a small example to understand. We have been told for a long time, look, economic growth is everything, nothing else matters. Here are some of the most economically developed countries. Look at the gun violence there. आपके पर कैपिटा इनकम इतना हाई है, some of the highest in the world, और वहां 20-20 साल के बच्चे ऑटोमेटिक वेपन लेके बाहर जाके 10-10 20-20 बच्चों को मार देता है. 70%, 80% unofficial figures suffer from psychological disorders. You're on prescription drugs or on other kind of psychotropic drugs. Where is happiness? Does it happen in a happy society? right? Does it happen in a happy society? So when you have only economic growth and only pharma should benefit without taking care of mental health, without taking care of, or and within when your country doesn't have have spiritual ethos, that country suffers from these things. Either you are creating conflicts or your own country is in conflicts with an internal conflict. Marna, peetna, shooting all the time. People can say, "Arey, ye to India mein bhi ho raha hai." But for a country with 140 crore people, compare करके देखिए, we are far more civilized and law abiding. I can understand when somebody out of sheer lack of money, for the sake of money, 5,000 के लिए कोई अगर किसी को मार दे ना, बहुत बड़ी गुनाह है, लेकिन फिर भी you can say okay there was a reason. जहां पे लोगों के पास बेशुमार धन दौलत होने के बावजूद एक दूसरे को मार रहा है, they don't know why they are doing it, but they are doing it because there is a problem with mental health. और इस mental health के बारे में कोई बात ही नहीं करता. And you cannot do away with mental health. We cannot solve the issues of mental health by only taking pills. Where is the society today? Where is the traditional family today? And how would you? What are we creating as a generation? You are embedded in your social media, TikTok, ye wo. You don't have friends. So look at the concept of family from the Indian perspective. Look at the concept of pados. Look at the concept of padosi. Look at the concept of community. Those things were so very important. So you create the right kind of combination of traditional social family values and modernity. When you do one without taking the other into account, there are problems. Everybody is so lonely today. So mental health, if you don't talk about mental health, there is no health. There is no health today without mental health. If you talk about health without talking about immunity, then there is no health. Pills लेके
Yeah.
कोई immune नहीं होता.
Why Pathikrit
So
is
these are
talking
the
about
questions.
I'll just chip in because thoda sa hum debate ho gaye. The social media has become a powerful tool for these power blocks to influence not only our families but our kids, but our children, and but the image of the entire country. So that's why he went to that side because social media एक बहुत बड़ा अपने आप में अभी जिस तरीके से हमने recently बहुत सारी controversies देखी हैं. I mean, let's not name them right now, but that's the reason. That's again क्या हो रहा है अपने आप से ही टिकटॉक के वीडियोस वायरल होने लगते हैं जिसमें किसी का गला दिख रहा है काटा हुआ या फिर किसी का कुछ दिख रहा है बिकॉज दैट इज व्हाट दे वांट टू प्रोजेक्ट. सोशल
See,
मीडिया आज
everything
के
can
लिए
be
सबसे बड़ा टूल बन गया है
everything
जी.
everything can be engineered. Okay, it's all engineered. You can amplify something, you can restrict something. ठीक है? You can amplify something, you can restrict something.
एग्जैक्टली.
So,
तो सोशल
so,
मीडिया से एक तो
so
इनकी इमेज खराब करने की अभी सबको पता है कि G23 इस बार हमारे साथ हमारे यहाँ होने वाला है. आई थिंक पथिकृत विल लाइक टू शेड सम लाइट आल्सो कि कितने सारे इवेंट्स ऑर्गेनाइज हो रहे हैं हर स्टेट में जा रहा है. बट उसके बीच में फालतू की रिपोर्ट्स आना स्टेट स्पॉन्सर्ड टेलीविजन नेटवर्क से इस तरीके की चीजों से तो वो टाइमिंग हिट करना है ना. जब आप जिस चीज
uh,
को कैपिटलाइज करना चाहते हो उसको उससे डिविएट करना है लोगों को. So
so
that's
देखिए
that's
इंडिया
a hit job.
No, so let me tell you, India again, India is the fifth largest economy. अब लोग बोलेंगे इस पे प्रॉब्लम नहीं, यहाँ बहुत प्रॉब्लम है. लेकिन people had written India off. So India emerged as the fifth largest economy through a massively difficult time. ठीक है? मैं एक साल पहले की फिगर्स ले रहा हूँ. अभी तो और भी बेहतर होगा. एक साल पहले मार्च 2022 में we had gross tax collection of 27 lakh crore. रिकॉर्ड एक्सपोर्ट्स ऑफ $670 बिलियन. ठीक है. उसके बाद रिकॉर्ड एफडीआई, रिकॉर्ड रेमिटेंस एंड अ जीडीपी ऑफ 3.45 or something like that trillion dollar. It's almost like $3.5 trillion. Next 5 years we will become the fourth largest economy. In the next say 1 decade or so we will become a $10 trillion economy. And now we are not only a big economy. हाँ, बहुत बहुत बड़ा होना है, बहुत एस्पिरेशंस को टेक केयर करना है, अभी भी बहुत challenges है, nobody is denying it. But the thing is that in 2019, 1990 we were on the verge of bankruptcy. From the verge of bankruptcy, in 30 years, we have become what? We have become the fifth largest economy of the world. Do you think many countries are happy about it? And we are a democracy. We are not a dictatorial country. We are not a one party rule. We are not one a dictator. So when we are not a dictator, and yet we have done this, in spite of the fact कि इतने सारे diversity है, challenges है, we manage everything. We have not disintegrated. Do you think countries are happy? Do you think you are growing? You are a responsible military power. Your leader is respected across the world. Your leader is extremely composed. He is creating a country जहाँ पे लोग today are taking pride in saying that I'm an Indian. So there is an emergence of a new India which is proud of its modernity and also its tradition. जिस tradition को हर दिन mock किया जाता है. Zabardasti har din for the last so many decades it has been mocked. The temples were mocked. The priest was mocked. Everything was mocked. So the way India has emerged, the way is India is talking about responsible capitalism. India is talking about responsible multilateralism, and India is questioning many things of the West. Do you think the West is happy? Do you think many countries are happy? No. So what will they do? Can they go for a war with you? No, they will not. They cannot afford to go for a war. They need the market as well. So what will they do? They will do hate jobs. प्रॉब्लम विद दिस कंट्री गायत्री जी अभी भी एक मानसिकता कुछ लोगों में है कि हम अपने लोगों को गाली देते हैं और दूसरे देशों से जब हमारे ऊपर उंगली उठाए जाते हैं वी बिलीव दैट मोर देन एनीवन एल्स you would always have different kind of content everywhere. You cannot restrict content, but जो लोग उस content को देख रहा है they should also do some kind of an introspection whether the content is good. Let me do a deeper research, let me find out the reality. हम वो करते नहीं है. हमारे यूनिवर्सिटी में वो सिखाया नहीं जाता. दूसरे देशों से हमारे ऊपर गाली दिया जाता है और हमारे देश के यूनिवर्सिटीज के जो ह्यूमैनिटीज डिपार्टमेंट है वो अपने देश को गाली देता है. They don't talk about the wars many of the foreign countries have done on other countries. They don't talk about the atrocities that the owners of BBC have done on India. They don't talk about what happened to our ancestors done by many of the Western countries. They don't talk about how the developing countries suffer because of the sanction raj of the West. And they don't talk about how the culture of patent and everything which they have copyrighted, for which we pay extra. And then they question us, और हम लोग जब कुछ करेंगे खुद उसमें मौकरी होता है. वॉशिंगटन पोस्ट में, न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स में कार्टून छपवाया जाता है कि भैंस के साथ एक बंदा खड़ा है trying to enter the space exclusive club for space club जहां पे only 4-5 countries can launch a mission to Mars.
जी. So
they will do hit jobs करेंगे. hit jobs करेंगे.
Elaborative detail आपने बैकग्राउंड पूरा बताया. अगर मैं स्पेसिफिक वाइज बोलूं किन किन रीजन से पावर ब्लॉक्स को प्रॉब्लम हो रही है. यू कैन स्पीक द नेम्स बट वी नो देयर इज वन ऑन द ईस्ट, देयर इज वन ऑन द वेस्ट, देयर इज फार वेस्ट एंड क्वाइट अ कपल ऑफ कंट्रीज अराउंड. तो अगर मैं एक सेक्शन वाइज
मैं पहले मैं सो इफ यू लुक एट वन ऑफ द टॉप टॉपिक्स पहली चीज अब देखिए there was a time in this country again let's not compare right now India with the number one economy or number two economy, but look at the trend. हम trend की बात कर रहे हैं. And let me tell you, many of these developed countries or Western countries, again, no disrespect to them, वो अपने वर्चस्व को maintain करने के लिए they'll do certain things. Look at this. एक ट्रेंड था इस देश में जब इस देश में कोई अगर आईआईटी आईआईएम से निकाल व्हेन दे विल ग्रेजुएट या कहीं अच्छे इंस्टीट्यूट से और उनके माँ बाप के भी क्या सपने होते थे आज भी कुछ लोग में है बट एक टाइम था जो ज्यादा था भाई मेरा बेटा निकल के बाहर चला जाएगा वो वहीं पे रहेगा कभी आएगा नहीं और देश तो बेकार चीज है वो ही बिकम्स एन अमेरिकन. टुडे इंडिया हैज मोर देन 80,000 registered startups and in various fields. Now you have a new trend now. India has the third largest ecosystem of startups in the world today. Okay. Now, if you look at the growth of United States as a country, again, highest respect to United States entrepreneurs. They attracted best talents from across the world, created an ecosystem for them to flourish. They created world-class organizations, and then America became rich. Today, a significant portion that time of those people who used to come to United States were from India. आज भी जा रहा है, but proportion to the population it is decreasing. Today, many of the bright people are coming and doing it, thinking of doing it in India. So India is emerging as an ecosystem which was not there in the past. 30-40 साल पहले नहीं था. सिर्फ IT sector में we were very good, and traditional some of the big industrialists who अपने efforts से they have done wonders for the country. Today, आज we have 84,000 almost Indian startups registered by Department of Department for Industrial Technology, DPIT कहा जाता है उसको. Every society state is working on that. Do you think those who benefited from our brightest of talent in some of the Western countries, they are happy about it? No. Secondly, we had huge corruption in we were one of the most corrupt countries. जब यहाँ से पैसा जाता था गरीबों के पास, हमारे कुछ पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री ये कहते थे कि 5 रुपए पहुंचता है या 15 रुपए 15 पैसे पहुंचता है या 5 पैसे पहुंचता है. Rest 85% gets eaten away. Today, because of the Jam Trinity, Jandhar, Aadhaar, Mobile, ठीक है, जनधन अकाउंट खोला गया फॉर मोर देन 44 crore people. 99% people today have bank account. आधार से कनेक्ट करके you have done away with so much of corruption which used to happen in transfer of money from state to the beneficiaries. Today there is a huge chunk of Indians who were traditionally not very rich, who have benefited so much from the government that they support the government. Do you think the West is happy about it? Do you think the West is happy कि आज India has emerged as a vaccine hub, और हमने करके दिखाया है to have a vaccine जिसका कोई reference point नहीं था. We have the highest level of industrial quality, made it, अपना खुद वैक्सीन बना के देश को सुधार दिया without taking something from some of the Western countries. We collaborated, but we did not import. Do you think countries are happy? We are creating, as part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, our own industrial ecosystem for defense products. Do you think major defense companies of Western countries are happy? आज there's a company called Skyroot Aerospace which is launching its own rockets. 2 महीने पहले launch किया, दिसंबर के महीने में. That means in the next 30-40 years, or probably 15-20 years, India will take a quantum leap in having its own Elon Musk, SpaceX, or organizations like that. You are making your own 5G. You are spending money to develop the next generation technologies of your own. You are creating your own hypersonic technology. You are talking about quantum computing. Those who had a business in India by selling products to India, and जिनके लिए इंडिया सिर्फ एक मार्केट था, वो देख रहा है कि इंडिया ग्रेजुअली, हाँ ठीक है, इंडिया इज स्टिल 3.5 trillion. It will take time for India to become $10 trillion. They are seeing, and they can see the future. They are seeing India's emergence as a very big competitor. That is something, competition no one likes, and that is where the problem is. And then they could have manipulated for a long time on us through price of oil. Sanction इसको ऊपर लगाओ, उसको ऊपर लगाओ, बोलो इससे नहीं ले सकते. Today is India is defying that and going ahead and taking without creating conflict with anybody. Today India is talking about de-dollarization. I will use my own rupee currency. I will use my own currency to do the trade. When your dollar dependency will come down, you can do something big. We saved $36 billion by buying oil in rupee. Can you imagine what would happen when India, अब वो जो वस्त्र account कर रहा है, most of the major trades in the future will happen in rupee. Do you think if you do de-dollarization of the economy, many of the Western countries will be happy? Again, no disrespect to the Western countries. They have done wonders. But if they say that we are for global good, then they should support India. Are they actually supporting India beyond the point? Question is, well, that's a big question mark. So as you try to break the status quo, एक तो है defense, as I said, एक तो है pharma. That's it. Because pharma में बहुत, for a long time we were generic suppliers of drugs. We are emerging out of generic drug manufacturer to a major vaccine hub, and we have shown industrial scale proficiency. Startups में we have become a big shot. And then comes something very interesting: the climate war. The climate war. You know, the West क्या कह रहा है? आजकल बोला जा रहा है कि don't use coal. Don't use coal. अरे 70% of our thermal power comes from coal. अचानक बोला जा रहा है renewable करो. Suddenly you shift from coal to renewable. 70% of your electricity generation will be gone. क्या होगा फिर? There will be chaos in the country. There will be social chaos. There will be civil war. There will be anarchy. India cannot do that. So India is doing what? India said we cannot right away do away with coal. We will use coal. We will gradually bring it down. But at the same time, we are working on renewable energy. We have very high targets, 175 gigawatts से 300 gigawatt हो रहा है. Then suddenly you say that no, all renewable energy, fossil fuel को बंद करो. अरे, your entire automobile is one of the biggest industry in the country, one of the biggest employer in the country, tax generated in the country. So entire automobile industry है, उसका जितने ancillary companies है, these are all based on combustion engine, and that is for many developing countries. अचानक आप रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी में कन्वर्ट कर इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल में कन्वर्ट करोगे सडनली ओवरनाइट, व्हाट हैपेंस टू योर एंटायर एंसिलरी इंडस्ट्री व्हिच इज बेस्ड ऑन कंबशन इंजन और उसके कंपोनेंट्स बनाते हैं. यू हैव टू गिव देम टाइम. सो इंडिया इज डूइंग थिंग्स इन अ कैलिब्रेटेड मैनर में वी स्टार्टेड द इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस. वी स्टार्टेड इन्वेस्टमेंट्स इन अंडर नेशनल ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन मिशन, जिसमें वी आर स्पेंडिंग अ ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ मनी. एंड डू यू नो गायत्री जी, which are the two companies which are investing massively in green hydrogen, in green hydrogen development, green hydrogen generation? अगर वो ठीक ठाक हो गया, we will not need oil at all. Do you know the two companies which are investing in solar, wind and green hydrogen? Adani's and the Reliance. ठीक है, they're investing lakhs of crores. अगर national green hydrogen में Indian government has started with a budget of 19,000 crore. Private sector is investing something around 7 to 8 lakh crore. Green hydrogen ko, if you make it big and you can make it viable, you have changed the whole matrix and the game. ये energy का जो geopolitics चलता है will be out of it. Energy will be cheap. That is something not many countries would want you to have. So we are telling the world, look, I am investing in renewable energy. International Solar Alliance बनाया. The entire ecosystem हम लोग इंडिया में बना रहे हैं for making every component of every wind turbine और solar panels. जितना dependence चाइना के ऊपर था, we are doing away with that. It takes time, लेकिन शुरू हो गया काम. Green hydrogen में we are doing. So gradually we are changing it, and we have kept target 235, 40. Shift has to be gradual. Otherwise, it will destroy the society. Disruption होके chaos होगा. What is the condition in some of the neighborhood countries? And what are our conditions out of the emerging out of COVID and global supply chain का जो challenge है, commodity price इतना बढ़ गया because of the Russia-Ukraine war. Many countries have huge foreign exchange reserve problem. We, in spite of COVID, in spite of commodity challenges because of war, हमारा foreign exchange reserve consistently have been above $500 billion. You got to give respect to the government for this thing. Are you getting my point? And you are started. आज aspiration है, we want to create our own alternatives. इसका मतलब ये क्या है? ये है कि we have done everything? No. But we are aspiring. You know, an established player is always scared of somebody who is extremely ambitious. Today's India is an ambitious India. और ambitious India इसलिए है क्योंकि ये बहुत कुछ झेलता है हर दिन और उसको पता है जुगाड़ कैसे काम होता है. We were not born with a golden spoon, and that is why many of the established countries are feeling the heat. ये hit job जितना शुरू हुआ है ना. Let me tell you, I don't want to be political here. Again, I'm not representing G20. I'm speaking for my own, my personal opinion. But I strongly believe before the 2024 election, there will be many hit jobs like the BBC hit job and the Hindenburg hit job. Many hit jobs. You see the reply that will come from the Adanis after 31st Jan. But by the time the goalpost would have shifted, some other story will come up. So this is something the West must understand. West चाहते कि we take a strong stand against China. West चाहते हैं Quad में we should be part of West. We should be with West. West चाहता है resilient supply chain बनाओ. West चाहता है decoupling करते हैं, चाइना को अलग करके इंडिया के साथ एक बहुत बड़ा ग्लोबल सप्लाई चेन बनाते हैं. बट एट द सेम टाइम जब वो खालिस्तानी वहां पे प्रोटेस्ट करेगा, इंडिया को तोड़ने की बात करेगा, फिर वेस्ट बोलेगा सी यू नो ये तो फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच है, वी कांट डू एनीथिंग. तो वो आपको रखना भी चाहता है, तोड़ना भी चाहता है. मतलब आपको अंदर से थोड़ा खोखला करके रखना चाहते हैं। what today's India is a stronger India, an India which has self confidence। आप बताइए, I can take my example। 15 years back I मतलब except for cricket matches, बाहर जाके कभी ऐसा नहीं लगता था कि I should take pride in saying I'm an Indian। I used to take, but हाँ लोग हंसते थे। आज people don't laugh at you। थोड़ा सा उनको जेलसी है, गुस्सा है। ऐसा नहीं है कि we have achieved, we are number one, ऐसा नहीं है। But because we are number 5 and we are aspiring, so we are a bigger threat to many। And I'll talk about the final thing। Gayatri ji, Modi ji said this is not an era of war। सबको लगा कि ये पुतिन को सिर्फ कह रहा है। No, it is for everybody। Who created the most number of wars since 1945? ये कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन मैकेनिज्म कुछ है इस दुनिया में। How much effort are made to prevent war? ऑब्जेक्टिव ये होता है लड़ाई होगा तो इकोनॉमी बढ़ेगा। कुछ देशों का बेचेंगे, हथियार बेचेंगे, ये बेचेंगे, वो बेचेंगे, प्राइस ऑफ कमोडिटी विल गो अप। जिसके पास वो कमोडिटी है सैंक्शन लगा के प्राइस बढ़ा के फिर बेचेगा। कॉन्फ्लिक्ट प्रिवेंट करने का मैकेनिज्म नहीं है, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट बढ़ाने का मैकेनिज्म है। दैट इज व्हाई मोदी जी सेड दिस इज नॉट एन एरा ऑफ वॉर एंड इंडिया इज ट्राइंग टू अशर एन एरा ऑफ नो वॉर। That can only happen when you think the whole world is my own family। जब तक आपको लगेगा ये मेरा फैमिली नहीं है, ये किसी और का है, आप मारना चाहोगे। So you're changing the basic philosophy। You're saying, look, it is not just about taking pills, but it is about having your own traditional health being strong। नहीं तो you will not be able to deal with the next pandemic coming। And if you're not mentally stable, economic growth means nothing। And if you don't have spirituality in your soul, you are nobody। It will not help you। You might end up, so many prosperous rich people, young kids from well-to-do family end up committing suicide। Gayatri ji, what is the solution for that? Why are rich kids of developed countries so much on drugs? And please understand, India has waged a major war against narcotics। ठीक है? That is not something many countries love about India। Narcotics is a big business जिसमें बहुत सारे agencies of certain countries are involved। ये इतना जो narcotics पकड़ा जाता है, that is not making many countries happy। उनके dirty wars are funded by narcotics trade। So what do? You create problems, hit jobs, and these hit jobs are going to go up, and we have to be very careful। Problem with this country, Gayatri ji, India में जो ये बड़ा चीज हो रहा है, and one of the thing about G20 is not about having an event in Delhi। I think the whole objective of Prime Minister Modi is to have G20 के जितने engagement groups है around 10-11। I would request audience, आप G20 group में जाइए, वेबसाइट में जाइए, दूसरे जो engagement groups है, Think 20, Business 20, Youth 20 और जितने सारे है Startup 20, they are having events across the country। हर एक स्टेट में हो रहा है, हर एक शहर में हो रहा है, हर एक यूनिवर्सिटी में हो रहा है, हर एक शहर में हो रहा है। And please engage and understand how the world looks up at India। Talk about the India's achievements। or the most important thing about India G20 is that यहाँ पे this is not a partisan political thing happening। We are talking about India as one and India's success stories as one। यहाँ पे something is happening good। महाराष्ट्र में भी G20 का इवेंट हो रहा है, वेस्ट बंगाल में भी हो रहा है। जो अच्छे अचीवमेंट्स G20 इंडिया का है, इन वेस्ट बंगाल गवर्नमेंट का है, या वेस्ट बंगाल के जितने कॉटेज इंडस्ट्री का है, दैट इज ऑल्सो बीइंग प्रोजेक्टेड। Interestingly, let me tell you, Gayatri ji, when we talk about creating jobs, big industry cannot create all the jobs। Why? Because gradually we are moving towards automation, business automation। Big industry is required to create demand for the downstream companies, but at the same time you need to create self-employment। The Mudra Yojana jo hai, that is spread, that has been given across 34 crore people were given 20 lakh crore rupees to start their own business। माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस जिनको पैसा नहीं मिलता था, कभी इंस्टीट्यूशनल फंडिंग नहीं होता था, उनको पैसा मिला। 5 crore माइक्रो एंटरप्राइजेस इन इंडिया बिफोर कोविड का मैं एग्जांपल दे रहा हूं। used to employ 12 crore people. उनको आज institutional funding मिल रहा है. That is because of which they, even if they end up employing one more people, तो 5 करोड़ छोटे उद्योग, छोटे माइक्रो मतलब एक दो घर से चलता है. So they can end up employing one more person. So 5 crore people companies, if they employ one more person, you have 5 crore employment. तो ये जो 2019 में वोट मिला था ना, ये बालाकोट की वजह से नहीं मिला था. Deeper analysis later on reveals something. अच्छा, ये जो we had discussed it before, I'm not going to get into that. So there are these templates India has created, whether it's Startup India or Jam Trinity or the Mudra Yojana, or what we have done as part of Ujjwala Yojana in terms of changing the lifestyle or lifestyle for environment. जो life concept, India is coming, Modi ji has coined it. जिस तरह से जो grassroots environmental worker को recognize किया जा रहा है, जिन्होंने सही में काम किया है, not some of those kids from west जो चिल्लाते रहते हैं frustrated होके, उससे environment नहीं होता. और you have to create sustainable development. Forest भी चाहिए, development भी चाहिए, नहीं तो forest नहीं रहेगा. So how do you balance between traditional life, home, traditional family ethos and modern life? How do you balance between sustainable development while taking care of environment? You also do developmental infrastructure work and you take care of the aspirations of people. These are the things that India is working on, and India is working on these things as a democratic country, not by imposing. ऐसा नहीं कि गोली मार रहा है किसी. Challenges है, and challenges है, इसीलिए we have better solutions. So this is why many are saying, यार ये तो थोड़ा ज्यादा हो रहा है. Right? Look at the number of heads of state who visited India after India took a stand on the issue of Russia. Why are they coming to India? Okay, there are things that India must also do more than that's not the issue we'll discuss now. But as a citizen, I'm saying, I see India as a place where you can experiment with newer thoughts today, जो आज से 20 साल पहले नहीं होगा. I am working with a lot of young people who have aspirations. उनके thoughts से. That was not the case 20 years back. They would have just selfishly gone away. I'm not saying anybody जो बाहर जाता है वो selfish है. मैं वो नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. I am saying आज जो बाहर है, उनके भी मानसिकता चेंज हो गया. They want to do something. शायद पहले भी होता था. शायद पहले भी they wanted to do, लेकिन there was no institutional framework इंडिया में जो उनको accept करता, उनके ideas को accept करता. Today, if somebody from abroad wants to come and do something in India, he is appreciated, he is recognized, he is being talked about, he is admired. वो admiration पहले नहीं था. Most importantly, today Indians have a voice because they believe that the man at the top is their person. ये पहले नहीं था. There was a huge distinction between government and common people. क्या इसका मतलब यह है कि all things have been solved in India? No, problems है, but solutions भी है. और we are constantly trying to improve. आज कुछ गलत देखते हैं, सरकार को बोलते हैं, they try in their own way to solve it. And everywhere, just as India is trying to become a solution provider and emerging as a solution provider, I see a lot of young people in the country today who are becoming solution provider for the problems of India. जो बाहर से लेते थे, उसका एक प्रोटोटाइप इंडिया में बन रहा है. Across drones, robotics, aerospace, defense, pharma, I mean, you name it. Bharat Biotech itself is a great example. The person used to stay in the United States. यहाँ आया, started Bharat Biotech, and look what they have done along with Serum Institute of India. ठीक है. Again, I repeat for many, कुछ cynics कहेंगे ये क्या बोल रहा है, इंडिया में ये प्रॉब्लम. अरे हाँ है, वो अमेरिका में भी है. फिलाडेल्फिया के बैक स्ट्रीट में चले जाओ, ड्रग एडिक्ट किड्स को कहते हैं, आपको पता चल जाएगा. बात वो नहीं है. बात है कि we have problems. We had problems since 1947. We had problems. उसके पहले $45 trillion लूटा गया था 200 साल में. उसके बावजूद भी we have survived. We have emerged as a better people, and we still remain simple. हम सुबह उठ के ये नहीं सोचते कि कितने को मार के आज पैसा कमाएं. Neither we have become extremist, nor we have become so money-minded that we don't care who lives or dies. All that I need is money. हम वैसे भी नहीं. We may not have 10 cars, but at the end of the day, we have peace of mind. This is my understanding, guys. And again, one last point, Gayatri, you see, this is something many of us can relate to. If you go to the West, again, no disrespect to the West, लेकिन West में for a lot of reasons, ये just liberalism हर सारा दिन जो ढिंडोरा पीटा जाता है, you see, there's a huge decline in interest in national affairs. Except for cricket and except for football matches, they don't take much interest in देश में क्या हो रहा है. Compared to that, today you see a lot of young people in India, and शायद ये बहुत सारे दूसरे developing countries में भी है. There's a renewed interest of young people in the affairs of the country. ऐसा नहीं कि हर कोई पॉलिटिक्स में इन्वॉल्व है, बट पॉलिटिकली अवेयर है, चाहे वो किसी भी पार्टी के हो. On every issue they debate, they give their viewpoints, that they are concerned political issues, policy issues, developmental issues, हर चीज में. And on the day of voting, जो पहले सिर्फ पी पा के सोते रहते थे, आज they come back to their home state to vote. That is the victory of democracy in this country that we have seen from 2014. People are taking interest in the idea of India. Not that India has become the best, but they are willing to make it better. Right? That is the thing. एक शांतनु कुलकर्णी जी है, इनको बहुत सारे सवाल है, कुछ ना कुछ बीच में लिख रहा है. So I'm not being able to understand when I said that we have taken over.
No, when you have taken up the questions, generally, is a regular viewer.
We have not taken over Japan as an auto production, but we are one of the biggest industrial hub when it comes to India's automobile industry. In terms of two-wheelers, we are the largest two-wheeler manufacturer in the world. Hero Motors is the largest manufacturer. It has gone ahead of Honda, which was their erstwhile partner. So in terms of two-wheelers, we are the largest in the world. In terms of three-wheelers, we are the largest in the world. In terms of private cars or जो domestic car है, उसमें I think we are one of the top 5-6, but we're still not one of the biggest. But yes, we are among the biggest in the world. In electric vehicle, we have brought in some major revolution. ये जो auto ये जो इसको क्या था ना, e-rickshaw revolution, it's a huge thing. Look at the last mile connectivity in India that has been ushered. Look at what has happened in terms of metro rail. Look at NCRTC, that is the regional connectivity को through train में किस तरह से बदला जा रहा है. A lot of developmental work is happening. The challenges है, but we are trying to make it better. For 140 crore people, 1.4 crore people के लिए करना आसान है. But when you have 140 crore people, it's not that easy. Where you have to take care of their fooding also, and still keep the economy running.
There is another question by a very regular viewer. Yesterday there was a report that UK wanted India to join AUKUS and leave the partnership with France.
हाँ, वो यूके के सपने में भी नहीं, नानी आ जाएगी, एलिजाबेथ आ जाएगी, तब भी नहीं होगा. That is something that, because France is one of the very few European countries which had its own independent views. They don't go to the American line all the time. Again, this is my own personal view. I have nothing to do. This has nothing to do with, G20. This entire program is my personal views. Quad and I2, U2, these are different kind of groupings, but G20 is a bigger grouping. Again, the very important aspect of G20 is यहाँ पे हर चीज consensus में होता है. But very, very important communique comes out of G20. यहाँ पे कोई confrontation होके कुछ नहीं होता है. Even if one country opposes something, that is not accepted. So when you deliberate on what would be the future of climate change, बहुत सारे ऐसे issues है. So the West has wanted higher tax to be imposed on countries like India or developing countries. Developing countries made it very clear last year that no, we cannot be imposed the tax on climate. We have not polluted the climate that much as you guys have done. So whether it's climate change or whether you talk about the future of job, see, there's a fundamental shift happening in India called the gig economy. Gig economy we must understand. A Swiggy and a Swiggy or a Zomato, somebody working there in a delivery boy can still earn 25 to 30,000 rupees a month. Okay. Somebody who is looking for a government job may still not get it. So the structures are changing of workplace. Fundamental changes are happening. It is a very big challenge for the organizations. Or India ke jitne organizations hai, they have dealt with so many different kinds of challenges. कि आज के ज़माने में जिस तरह के challenges हो रहा है, I think the Indian companies are well suited. किस तरह के challenges है for any company today? Global disruptions have become a major challenge. एक टाइम था जब आपको फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि क्या हो रहा है दुनिया भर में. But today, from anything you manufacture, from a television to wind turbine to an aeroplane to a mobile phone, to a camera, to anything, you require a semiconductor. Anything which happens in South China Sea, anything which happens between India, between China and United States, तो supply chain of semiconductor में disruption आएगा, आपका entire production system में problem आएगा. You might be working in an automobile company. If the price of oil goes up, the sale of your company's car goes down. So एक तो है geopolitical disruption. Secondly, one of the biggest challenge for organization is how do you manage the aspiration of your own employees. They don't want anymore कि आप उसको थोड़ा चिल्लड़ भर पैसा increment दे दो, they'll be stay happy. They want to become employer of tomorrow. They want their own organizations. So tomorrow हो सकता है कि your own employees will become your competitor. How do you deal with that? There's an issue of this the traditional lifestyle, traditional work culture is changing. आप 9 to 5 job चाहते हो, 9 to 5 job आजकल हो नहीं है. In the next 10 years, 15 years, there will be no 9 to 5 job. You might be working in different places at the same time, and there's no permanency. Every time you have to upskill yourself. Permanent upskilling कुछ नहीं है. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने एक skill acquire कर लिया और उससे आप रहोगे. ठीक है? So there are multiple challenges the organizations are facing. Commodity price challenge, geopolitical challenge, your challenge of your people. They work from home is good, but they might work for your competitor at the same time. How do you deal with that? Okay, you have to constantly reskill your own employees because structures are changing at every moment. Technology is making a massive change. Look at BlackBerry. It was a good, it's very successful organization till the time WhatsApp came in and BlackBerry is gone. The time that when Android came, BlackBerry is over. So how do you deal with this kind of disruptive changes when you are huge organization? Compared to that, Indian organizations, relatively many of them are nimble-footed, smaller, but big, very, very important, very, very mobile to change to situations. So there are these challenges that are coming up. Many of the traditional companies of the West have succeeded. Many are finding it difficult. In countries like many of the Western European countries where social values are social development index, they are very high. They'll not work for more than six hours. How do you then make your company survive where there are countries where people are willing to work for 18 hours a day? And you have to make your company people work. You have to make them take ownership. So there are challenges. So there are job-related challenges. There are challenges in the startup ecosystem. Then there are challenges of dealing with social commitments. How do you do away with corruption? Then there are challenges of climate change. How to create a sustainable business, philosophy out of it. Then you have challenges of making sure कि कैसे how do you prevent war, or is it that war itself is part of the business industry, global business? बिना war से survive नहीं होगा. War को create करना पड़ेगा. That is something that has to change. The healthcare sector, fundamental shifts are changing. ये जो एक culture, एक presumption था that कि आपके पास बहुत अच्छा health infrastructure है, मतलब you are very successful. But in Europe, we have seen कि COVID जब आया, they actually were not successful. In spite of having so big infrastructure, they did not succeed because perhaps कहीं पे it collapsed. Whereas in case of India, I'm not saying हमने सफर नहीं किया, we actually suffered at the same time initially, but we turned around far better. Maybe because our immune system was better than theirs. So it's not just about good infrastructure. The infrastructure of your physical body is important. So how do you deal with disruptions? How do you deal with complex environment? How do you deal with adverse situation and yet survive? For companies, for organizations, for countries, for people, 21st century 2023 has become a very, very challenging era of surviving. Right? So how do you survive? And Indians have always survived. ये तो जुगाड़ वाला देश है. ये हर चीज में survive कर जाता है. That is a question mark for. And then when you have a reverse brain drain, people are taking pride in India, coming back. What happens if this trend goes on for the next 10, 15 years? And the way we see, we have new generation of leadership coming up, young people in policy making, young people in entrepreneurship, young people in social activism, young people working for environment. They're not doing it for photo ops. They're serious minded people doing it. And the most important thing, something which doesn't happen anymore in the West, during election time, they take leave from office to work for political parties. That is a very big thing for democracy. And that is why I think India has a future. It's not about which party is power, which party is not in power, but I'm talking about the idea of vibrancy of democracy. We have done everything in spite of being chaotic. So India looks chaotic from outside, but you see within that chaos there's a discipline, and that's why we survive. Whereas in many of the other countries, they are so disciplined कि कुछ भी disruption होता है, then it becomes very difficult for them to adjust. And that is why I think I love the idea of India. जितना भी problems हो, challenges है, invariably at the end of the day, there is something that connects people across religion, across everything. Okay. And that's why I think वो अभी गिलगित बाल्टिस्तान से भी कॉल आता है कि पाकिस्तान से नाता छोड़ो, भारत से नाता जोड़ो, इस तरह का. They've seen it. The intent for a long time, unfortunately, was not there. Today, you have the political intent to bring a real change. For a long time, some people were happy to keep India a nation known for snake charmers and malaria. Today, that has changed. And I think we are grateful for the political leadership. This political leadership has worked as a catalyst, I would say, in bringing the fundamental change. And I am seeing that change in the G20, the way young people are working. Again, no disrespect to any other country, but I think many countries are not very happy with India's rise because India very peacefully, without getting into conflict, without bad mouthing anybody, is trying to change some status quo, which those status quo did not help those who are voiceless. Today, India is saying, I will become the voice for the voiceless. That is something which is uncomfortable for the West. The West doesn't want tomorrow, a small country like, say, a very small country, I'm not naming, coming up and saying, "Arey, why are you doing this?" पहले के जमाने में they would have been put some kind of a sanction, ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, चलो regime change हो गया. Not that easy. आज भी कोशिश करता रहता है. ऐसा नहीं कि इंडिया में भी ये लोग कोशिश नहीं करता है. But things have become smarter. This is all I had to say, Gayatri ji.
It's always lovely to hear you, Pathikrit. मेरे कुछ एक व्यूअर्स बोल रहे हैं कि मैम आप बिल्कुल नहीं बात कर रहे हो, तो आई वाज लाइक आई डोंट वांट टू डिसरप्ट द फ्लो, सो इस वजह से. बट बहुत सारे ऐसे क्वेश्चंस हैं जो हमने साइलेंटली आंसर करने की कोशिश की हैं, गिवन द डेजिग्नेशन पथिकृत इज होल्डिंग राइट नाउ. बट द थिंग इज ही इज गॉट लॉट टू से, but maybe after G20 से जब इनका रोल, he's heading the coordination committee right now for Y20 Youth 20. So once that is out, फिर ये bomb फोड़ेगा. तब ये खुलकर बोलेगा, तब ये बोलेगा इसकी तो ऐसी की तैसी. अभी ना तो
I strongly, I have very high respect for the Prime Minister of the country. I have very high respect for the External Affairs Minister. I have very high respect for the Home Minister, and I have very high respect for the G20 Sherpa, Mr. Amitabh Kant. It's amazing. So the way they are doing work across the country. But again, मैं यहाँ पे जो बोल रहा हूँ, this is in my personal capacity. This has nothing to do with G20 India. So these are my personal opinion, and because I'm a geopolitical analyst, so I think I do have the right to give my personal opinion. But yes, at the same time, there are certain things I would prefer not to talk about, so which is understandable.
नहीं, तो ये जो गोलमोल कई बार बीच में का, तो यू हैव टू लुक फॉर द हैंड्स कि आखिर ये किसकी तरफ इशारा कर रहे हैं. सी मोदी जी भी कौन सा ये बोलते हैं कि अच्छा ये इसने ऐसे कर दिया. ही नेवर स्पीक्स एनीबॉडीज नेम, ही नेवर टेक्स एनीबॉडीज नेम. ही इज ऑलवेज इंडिकेटिव, ही इज ऑलवेज पॉइंटिंग इन द डायरेक्शन, बट कभी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड नाम नहीं लेते हैं. दैट्स दैट्स द थिंग.
Very recently in the Gayatri ji, in recently ये Global South का एक मीटिंग जब हो रहा था, the Prime Minister said something very interesting. He said कि बहुत सारे ऐसे देश है, we are suffering for the things, we are facing consequences. मैं exact शब्द याद नहीं है मुझे, but मोटा मोटा he said that we are suffering the consequences of many things which we did not do. Many things from 1945 onwards, you see. We are suffering for things we haven't done. चाहे वो क्लाइमेट लेके बात कर लीजिए, बहुत सारे इश्यूज है जहाँ पे चाहे वो ये जितने कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स है, चाहे वो ऑयल प्राइस राइज है, बहुत सारे ऐसे इश्यूज, एंड वी हैव ऑलवेज बीन मॉक्ड. मतलब दुख की बात है, जब कोविड के टाइम शमशान में चीता जल रहे थे, वो अर्थियां निकल रही थी या जो भी हो रहा था वहां पे, क्रिमेशन ग्राउंड में जब बॉडीज वर गेटिंग बर्न, दैट बिकम अ पिक्चर. Similar pictures in the graveyards of West, that did not become a news. That was the hypocrisy that this world can avoid. Okay,
See,
and I
they've
think
always been hypocrites of the very first order. Let's accept it. अभी वो महारानी जी चली गई हैं तो मैं नाम नहीं लूंगी. Why should I bring up the name? But if you look at their museums, they're full of our stuff. If you look at their richness, it is because they kept us poor. मतलब डाका डालना is a small word, yeah. So I will probably not go into that direction. And
so. The issue is 2023. India is saying, look, some things. India is saying in a smiling way, some things got to change gradually. Change होगा. Status quo नहीं रहेगा. And that is why it is not like any other year, and lot of things will happen. ठीक है.
जी. सो आई हैव अ व्यूअर who's गायत्री मैम. मैं यूपीएससी टीच करता हूँ पॉलिटी एंड इकोनॉमिक्स, और बच्चों को गलत पढ़ाया गया इतिहास से उनकी आंखें खोलने का काम कर रहा हूँ. कैसे पागल बनाया है देश के लोगों को 60 सालों में, बच्चों को यकीन नहीं होता. या आई नो सर, मैंने भी एग्जाम्स दिए हैं, रीच्ड द इंटरव्यू स्टेज वे बैक इन 2010 और 11 आई गेस. So I know हिस्ट्री में क्या पढ़ाया जाता है, स्पेशली द मिडिएवल इंडिया वाला पार्ट. दैट्स द मोस्ट बोरिंग पार्ट. एशियंट इंडिया वाला तो फिर भी अच्छा था, मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री अच्छा था, बट जो जो बीच वाला मिडिएवल आता है ना, सच्ची में इतनी नींद आती है उनको देख के. एंड दैट्स द डार्क एजेस. That's called the dark ages of the Indian history, actually. So dark ages coincides with a particular community. God knows क्या बोलूं मैं. Anyways, thank you so much, Pathikrit. Given your conditions, I actually dragged him out of the house क्योंकि मेरे बहुत सारे गेस्ट डिमांड कर रहे थे कि अब मैं इसको थोड़े से टाइम छोड़ दूंगी. आई मीन आई विल नॉट इनवाइट हिम फॉर सम टाइम बिकॉज he has certain limitations of words he cannot speak. He cannot point fingers. So I think till the time he's not able to find time with this, because he's working even on Sundays. When I called, he was in a meeting or something. So he's there's a very tight schedule going on with so many 1200 कितने events है Pathikrit G20 में अभी, which you guys are handling.
So I think if you talk about the whole team, मतलब पूरा जो है, I am involved with one of the engagement groups, but overall, if you look at G20 and all its engagement groups together, 10 or 11 such groups, सब मिला के major events तो होंगे 300 almost, major events. And then there will be lot of engagement programs across universities, institutions. तो सब अगर आप सब मिला ले throughout the year, all small big events together, every day something is happening somewhere. It will be 1,000 plus. And the Prime Minister's instructions are very clear that it is not going to be Delhi centric. It is happening across the country, whether it is Calcutta or
That
Bombay,
makes
whether
it
it
all
is
the more tough, rather. That makes it all the more
and
difficult to handle stuff.
everywhere. So there are teams individually for each, and most of the universities are getting associated. Every city would have some kind of representation. Every chamber of commerce, every citizens forum, everywhere we are talking about India's emergence and solution as a solution provider, India's arrival, India's and how India deals with the challenges, and whether these challenges, the way we deal with them, can be taken as a template by many other countries as solutions, or to be used for their own problem solving. So it is happening across. So I think first thing, one most important thing is not the event, but how you ideate and let the country know what is happening. That is important, and that if that can aspire people to become better citizens, entrepreneurs, activists, policymakers, if that can interest them to do something better, become techpreneurs, it will. That serves a purpose. So there are
No, what is
almost, I think,
the best part? I see there have been G20s earlier also, and they will be happening later also. I don't know about what is going to come in future, but the best part about I like is they're engaging the youngsters. These guys are going to be the policymakers. They are going to be the MPs, MLAs, and the future torch bearers of our of our country. तो अभी जो पथिकृत का इंटरेक्शन है, that's very interesting. एक दिन मैं उस पर सेपरेट सेशन करूंगी. He's got IIM, IITians and a team of couple of young kids. He's heading the coordination committee for Y20. Y20 is Youth 20. So ये सबसे ज्यादा important है अभी
So
youngsters को
I
engage.
deal with So in the division that I am dealing with, mostly we have people who are either PhDs or master degrees, MTechs from IITs, lawyers. There are people who are economics assistant professors. There are people who are town planners. There are those who are doing international relations PhD, and there's a huge chunk of young people, just 23, 24, 25 years of age, from premier universities across India. And the interesting thing is that they're still young, they're learning. Sometimes I had to be a little strict with them, but it's a manthan going on for them. Eventually, in spite of all the challenges, once they come out with the programs, they're pretty good. They're very sincere, and I can say that throughout the day there's a lot of chaos, but I'm proud for all the work that they're doing, and the sincerity with which they're doing it is amazing.
जी. So I think he's shaping up some very young kids and I'm really proud and happy that. तो इसलिए मैं इनको अभी डिस्टर्ब नहीं करूंगी. तो अगर कोई डिमांड करने वाले तो डिमांड मत करना जब तक ये फ्री नहीं हो जाए. बोलेंगे वो क्या हैव दिस स्लॉट ओपन एंड मैं आज फ्री हूँ थोड़ा सा बिकॉज he's really busy. But क्योंकि पीछे कुछ टाइम से कमेंट्स बॉक्स में मेल्स में his name was cropping up, so I thought कि चलो आज थोड़ा सा कर लेते हैं. And he's working
Interestingly,
24.
Gayatri ji, क्या होता है? All the people who are working in this, most of them parallelly are doing their jobs as well, and then they're doing it. So
Wow.
you can imagine the
That's
amount of
difficult.
effort they're putting.
That's really difficult. मतलब जॉब के साथ साथ
So
आई अंडरस्टैंड जी.
thank you.
थैंक यू सो मच पथिकृत. अब जाके आप गुड नाइट करो और या टिल वी मीट नेक्स्ट. जाने से पहले सभी व्यूअर्स से रिक्वेस्ट है, इफ यू लाइक आवर सेशंस, इफ यू लाइक आवर शोज एंड द कंटेंट दैट वी ब्रिंग, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share the alternate media. Or if you feel you can support me and you want to support me, सभी links description box में दिए हुए हैं. So इसी के साथ जय हिंद, जय श्री राम, हर हर महादेव. Thank you so much पथिकृत and all the best for the programs in future.